Let's welcome our next guest for this morning. He is Rich Simmonds. He's a very powerful social influencer, and I'm following him on Twitter because he's very interesting. Puts up a lot of really inspiring stuff. And when I said that I was interviewing you, a whole lot of people said to me, this is great because we love what he does on social media. Listen to this story quickly. He's been in photography, and it was never his plan to be involved in social media or anything like that. And he was running a video production company and a whole lot of other stuff. He thought he was a creative guy, and that was where he should be. And then he discovered, no, hang on. Actually, he's completely on the wrong path. He took some test or something. What was the story there?
Yeah, morning, Gareth.
Morning, Rich. You took some kind of test, and they told you you're in the wrong career.
Well, they didn't tell me that. I took what they call the Strengths Finder test.
Is that something you do online?
Yes, you do it online.
So anyone can do it.
Yeah, you just go search Strengths Finder.
Okay.
You'll come up with a test.
I'm scared to do it now in case it tells me that I should be in geology.
No, but it's not about a change.
Okay.
It's just your strengths. And you'll probably find that when you know your strengths, you can actually play better to those strengths.
Okay.
So I found out, for instance, that my top strength was communication.
Right.
So yes, I saw what I was doing. I could communicate via pictures, via the video medium.
Right.
But I also then took myself back to earlier on in life when I was in Boy Scouts, actually.
Yeah, I will get to that just now. You were the youngest Springbok Scout ever in South Africa.
Correct.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you took yourself back to there. We'll get back to it.
Yeah. And just realized that what I was doing there was I was training people and I was interacting with people. Whereas as a photographer, you're behind the lens.
Yeah.
Although you do need a certain personality to interact with people, the interesting part was I knew that I had a little bit more. So I would be photographing people, but I'd want to speak to people. I wouldn't just want to photograph them.
Well, it was obviously the right decision, and I'm glad you took that test because since then, Rich Simmonds has been voted by Forbes as a top 10 social influencer in Africa and a top 100 social influencer in the world by Forbes. That's incredible. That's one hell of a thing. You must feel a lot of responsibility. You can't go on Twitter and say, oh, I'm having a shit day. Oh,
no,
screw you guys. Huh? You can't do that.
Precisely. There is a responsibility. I think that's, what leadership's all about. It is that responsibility to the followers. It's not something that's given, you can't decide you're a leader. And that's what social media teaches us.
Yeah.
You can't decide you're an influencer. You gain that influence by people following you and then you realizing what they need and you delivering on their needs. So you're serving people that follow you.
And in this country, there are a lot of people who are crying out for that kind of thing.
Yes, they are. It's interesting because I look at a lot of organizations and we see very few leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at, I think in America, they
forget organizations, even families. We don't even have leaders. No,
absolutely. And it comes down to the basics of communication. So what breaks down relationships? It's the lack of communication. So if we want better relationships, we got to start at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a saying that people often sort of challenge me on because I tell them you communicate exactly at work exactly like you communicate at home.
Right. So if you're an abusive, nasty person at work, you're probably like that at home as well.
Absolutely. And if you're not, well, then you need to show the world that you're not. You can't tell the world that you're not.
Yeah, you've got, in other words, actions speak louder than words. And for you, all of this communication interest, you say it started really young. I mean, what kind of family did you grow up in?
I grew up in a normal home.
Hey, nobody's home's normal.
No. You're quite right. It's not normal.
Yeah.
So I think
But you have both parents?
Yeah, I have both parents, and I've got a twin brother as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is because
identical twins?
Yeah, identical.
Really?
So if he was speaking on the radio now, you would not know the difference.
You might even be his twin. You might not even be Rich.
Yeah,
How do I know for sure that you're not your brother? Huh? This is very confusing for me already.
It is, indeed.
What does he do? Where is he?
He's a tax specialist, an accountant.
Talk about different, huh?
Yeah, different, yeah.
Even though you're identical twins, you have such different interests.
And sort of a left brain, right brain thing.
Yeah.
So if you put the two of us together, you'd have sort of the perfect
human being.
Yeah,
He'd have all the skills he needed.
correct. Yeah.
He could be president.
Could be president, absolutely. But because of our skills,
Yeah.
and because we operate within our 5 top strengths, because I've only got 5 and there's 34 possibilities, that means that if we look at in the studio here, between the 5 of us,
Mm-hmm.
we've probably got a full set of strengths, and that's why we need each other.
Right. Is this the whole thing with teamwork too? Because
Yes.
what most of your work consists of now is you unblock communication problems.
Correct.
So when you come into an organization or people ask you to come and advise them, speak to them, you look at people and you find the communication blockages.
Correct.
Okay, so let's take, for example, I don't know, a sports team, because that's a classic case study for any of this kind of thing. If you find some kind of communication blockage, let's say the captain of the team isn't very good at explaining to the team what he needs them to do, how do you even start with something like that? Because people don't often want to listen.
Correct.
They think they've got it right, you know?
Yeah. So instead of complicating things, we must simplify things.
Okay.
And what it basically means is you need to listen.
Okay.
So Tom Peters had a very interesting comment the other
Who's
day.
Tom Peters?
He's that leadership management guru from the States.
Yeah, I don't know these people.
Anyway, you don't know that, but he just said something very interesting where he said that 80% of selling is listening.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not sure what the other 20% is. But I mean, if you got 80%, you did okay. So why did you have to worry about the other 20% anyway? So, but that's what it's all about. So we have to listen.
Okay.
And the average person only listens for 18 seconds.
That
Sure.
little. Is it,
Gareth's average is slightly lower at
I'm
about
about a 2.5.
0.8 seconds.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. So
I have to focus, but I'm sure this is a problem a lot of people have.
Mm.
It's probably your problem too, is that in the beginning you didn't listen. You had to train yourself to listen. That's
absolutely.
where I am.
Yes.
Is that roughly right?
Yeah, we have to listen to understand.
Okay.
And we try to understand the person and their needs. And everyone's got needs. So it's easy to listen. Just wait for them to tell you their needs.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you have to give them anything. You've just paid them respect by actually listening to them properly.
How the hell did you end up in the Scouts? I mean, isn't the Scouts kind of lame? It's a bit sad and nothing really happens except like pedophiles abuse young men there. What are the Scouts all about?
What is it? I mean, interesting that
Curious.
that
You got in there, you were the youngest Springbok Scout, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You were the youngest Springbok Scout in South Africa. So how does it work? What happened? How did you get involved?
It was just an interest in people,
Okay.
and then the outdoors. Now I'm not a particularly outdoorsy person, so for my motivation, it was more about people. It was an enablement to interact with, obviously you join the Scouts, you might be 10 or 11,
Mm-hmm.
and there'll be guys all the way up to 18 years old. So you have this interaction with different age groups. So you learn a lot more from, and obviously learned a lot more about human behavior from that early age, and sort of to notice things and what people were doing.
So it wasn't just about making fires and learning how to tie certain knots and ropes and that kind of thing.
I did
You
all
do that anyway.
You do all that
Right.
anyway. But I was more interested in the people, and it's a sort of a leadership training ground, if you might, because
Okay.
and leadership is interacting with people, learning how to communicate with people. It's not about the skills and those sort of things that we assume we need, because knowledge is not power. It's only when you share knowledge that it becomes powerful.
Well, I mean, is that entirely true? Sometimes people who have knowledge of something but they don't share it, those are the people who have the power because they don't want other people to know what they know.
That's a false sense of power.
I mean, that's how a lot of politicians in this country operate, I get what you're saying and I agree with you, but there could be the argument against that.
Absolutely. It's an old sort of style of, I've got 6 certificates on the wall.
Therefore, I'm knowledgeable. You must.
Yeah, and you have to kind of like join me at the knowledge level so that I can share with you. So you become irrelevant to the normal person. You're only relevant to the other people who have also got similar qualifications to you.
What's the new way?
The new way is just to listen to people. So we don't understand people because we don't listen. So if you look at multinationals and all that, where doesn't matter how many degrees you've got different languages.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to understand the person's culture, his background, where he's coming from. And if you look at the difference between East and West, there's a whole lot of differences in branding, for instance, where in the West we believe that the person is everything. In the East, they believe the corporation is everything. And you're never bigger than the corporation. Whereas in the Western way, you are the corporation. You are Gareth Cliff. You are Cliff Central. If this was an Eastern show, this would be Cliff Central. And it's just those small little nuances and differences.
I can see how much you've thought about this and how much work you put into understanding how human beings communicate with each other. But isn't it frustrating that people also communicate very superficially a lot of the time?
And I think that's all, we need to understand that. So we've got thinkers and we've got followers and those sort of people. So are you, and incidentally, you'll get people coming to speak to corporations and organizations and churches and schools and those sort of things. And if they inclined academically, they'll only speak to the academic type of people and lose the maths. So
there'll be more of a Thabo Mbeki than a Jacob Zuma.
Yes,
right.
Correct. Yeah, okay. That's it. So the real skill is to combine the two and actually simplify things. But so you're not insulting people's intelligence, but you're making it simple enough to understand it. So unpacking it into a relationship, because everyone, especially in South Africa, we need to have better communication and better relationships because we're the country with the most divorces in the world.
Are we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Did you know that?
Is it 1 out of 3 now, or it used to be 1 out of 4?
Yeah, it's probably
that would survive marriage.
We have the worst divorce rate in the world.
In the world,
I had no idea about that.
That was some statistics I heard last week. So
that's very bad.
It is, and it's all about communication. So, kind of, are you kind? Do you listen?
I had a girlfriend once who said that the most important thing about any human being to her, the best characteristic a human being can have is kindness.
Correct.
You don't find a lot of that just lying around. People are not willing to give kindness as much as they might have been before, or maybe that they've been trained out of doing that. Why do you think that is?
Well, we're in a survival mode. So that's not a choice. You wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
It's easy to survive. It's not a choice to survive. It's sort of programmed into us.
Mm-hmm.
If you, however, want to take your life, that's a choice. Or if you want to love other people and care for other people, that's a choice. But this gray area doesn't involve any choice. And most people live in that little gray area.
That's right.
Oh, so
that's absolutely right. It's horrible, but it's true. Like we don't actually break out of our survival mode very often to raise the level of conversation or to drop it down if you need to. But that gray area is exactly where most people are. That's the problem with our country. That's why we're not excellent at everything.
And half of the problem is we don't show enough empathy for others.
Yeah, I had a guy in here the other day who was talking about that.
Oh,
we don't bother to listen.
That's right. So what we believe, so we look at the corporations and people, we'll get a motivational speaker in.
Yeah, I hate those guys.
Yeah. So there's, so what happens? Okay, I cannot motivate you.
No,
I cannot motivate anybody.
It's called self-help. You have to help yourself.
Yes, and and you got to look at the enabling process of that self-help.
Right.
So what I can do is I can show empathy for you.
Yeah.
Which then you have a feeling that you cared for, and if you have that feeling that you cared for, you'll motivate yourself to come up to a better level, to make better choices in your life.
How do I make Mabale more empathetic? I mean, look at her. She doesn't want to empathize with me at all.
Well, the thing is,
she has no interest.
That's your need because, you haven't showed her.
No, it's her problem. It's not my need. Look at her. She's full of problems.
I just don't like him.
Okay.
She says that. I've never been horrible. I've only ever been nice to her. She's got major problems.
So you've got to be really nice then.
Yeah, I'm so kind to her. So you bend over backwards.
And many people believe that by you being kind to Mabali, for instance, okay,
Yeah.
is that she's going to be kind back to you.
She won't.
She won't.
No.
So don't expect it.
Ah,
So
I must lower my expectations.
Yes, but not a. Yes, you can lower your expectations of Mabali
Yeah.
because by you being good to her and pleasant to her, she'll be pleasant to someone else, and in turn, someone else will be pleasant to you.
That's too long to wait. I want it to happen now. Listen, Rich,
Well, yes.
don't you get frustrated having to analyze all of this in people all the time? I mean, I know it's your strength, but do you ever sit down and just kind of have meaningless, fun conversation about nonsense that's going on in the news or?
Yeah, I had meaningless conversation with a team next door.
The interns, but they,
Yes,
but,
yeah.
I mean, like, you don't expect them to mine deep, did you? Come on, really.
It was good fun there.
What do you think of what we're up to here? Do you think this could be a positive social influence?
I think it is a positive social influence, definitely, because there's something happening.
Yeah. Do you think that Damon is a major communication block? Look at him. I mean, what value? Are you a communication blocker, Damon?
No, the problem is I think I communicate too much. I'm too honest.
Is that a problem? Do you think that can be a problem?
No, it's never a problem. It's the problem comes when you're too honest, but you don't want to be vulnerable.
Huh.
So as long as you've been honest and you've been vulnerable at the same time, and vulnerability is an interesting concept. You know that most corporations don't want us to speak about vulnerability.
Because they want to appear to be all-powerful and totally in control. It's a very masculine thing. You know, you don't want to show weakness.
And it's not weakness at all.
No.
It's complete strength. And that's when we're honest.
Vulnerability is strength?
Absolutely.
Right. For some people, that's a major... They don't understand that.
And it's a big strength. You've got to see it like that and believe that it is a strength for yourself. So Damon being honest, if he knows he's honest and he's vulnerable enough in sticking with that honesty without having other people's opinions changing his thoughts, it's perfect.
You hear that?
But now that I think about it, I think I've changed over the years. I think I have learned to hold back quite a bit, I think, to protect myself.
Yeah, I think that's probably what a lot of people do. That's also survival.
Okay, so that's an interesting comment, because if we do protect ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we must realize that we're actually becoming less vulnerable. And if you hide one of your emotions because you're building this wall, you actually hide all your emotions. So we think we're clever as humans, but we can't compartmentalize our emotions.
No.
So if we feel shame or we unhappy about something, or there's something happening in our past that we fear, so it's brought some fear into our life,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of like mask that fear, but we mask all the happiness and joy and love that could go with it.
So we become very one-dimensional.
Yeah. And that's probably the reason why people are in that gray area.
It's safe.
Yes, it's very safe. But you see, safe will never get you anywhere.
And you're not living if you're safe.
You're not living.
No.
No.
Damn, this is interesting stuff. How do you listen to people on Twitter? I mean, most people on Twitter are just trolls. They've got nothing positive to say. They're just miserable. They hide under anonymity. They say mean things about themselves and other people.
Well, I think
Twitter's not a great place to make friends or to be influential, right?
you need to sort of filter out the nonsense.
Yeah, that's tough. I can only block so many people in a day.
But you don't have to block people. Just
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
Have
no,
you seen
yeah.
some of these people?
Yeah, but the concern about blocking people, I've always said that if you block someone, it's like declaring war. Just ignore them.
Okay.
And that's the best thing you
It's
can
easier
do.
said than done. On a certain day, you got on that Twitter and people are just being abusive. You want to lash out, you know?
Well, that's the thing. So you don't lash out.
Oh, it's so easy to
That's the
say.
choice. That's the choice. Otherwise, lashing out is what the people in the grey area do. So if you want to be different,
What must I do?
just
Pretend it's not there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's what you say about
Help us all on this, because
Yeah, well,
I'm sure there are
absolutely.
loads of people. This is not just a me thing. A lot of people who feel that they allow themselves to be vulnerable on social media, for example, because we're all vulnerable there. You
Well-
put your life on the line, you express opinions, you say what you think, and therefore you are exposing yourself. And someone comes back with something mean and nasty and horrible. What do you do? Ignore?
Thank them for it.
No
if you
way.
have to.
They
If
can
you-
fuck off. Come on, Rich.
Yeah. If you have to, if you feel you have to, if you have this desperate need to respond, just thank them. Say, I appreciate your feedback.
Oh no.
Okay,
Oh.
that's the best you can do. Otherwise, you just ignore them. Because remember that anyone doing that to you it's like a bully syndrome.
Okay.
What does the bully want? He wants your attention.
Okay.
If you don't give him attention, he'll move on. He'll find someone else to bully. But if you give him the slightest inkling, good or bad, he's got your attention, and that was all he was looking for. He didn't care if it was good or bad attention. He just wanted your attention. So we can feel empathetic for those people and just move on. That's all.
All right, that's useful info.
And what someone says about you has got nothing to do with you. It's not your business. And the problem comes is when you start responding. So even if you respond in a negative or positive way, it starts to reflect on who you are.
I've got you.
Oh,
No, I see what you mean.
So just don't.
This is interesting work. If people want to follow you, you're on Twitter at Rich Simmonds, right?
Rich Simmonds ZA, yes.
Rich Simmonds, SIMMONDS ZA. And you can go follow him and find out why Rich is one of the most powerful social influencers, not only in Africa, but in the world. Don't let us down now, Rich.
We won't.
Lash out at Leanne when she sends you an abusive message. All right.
It was interesting. I got some interesting, and I miss half of them because I'm not expecting the negative.
Yeah.
And we don't expect the negative. We don't see it.
Sure.
It might be there on the timeline, but I don't see it.
Okay.
But for the haters, because there always are the haters out there.
Mm-hmm.
I sent a tweet out yesterday afternoon, and I said, "Thank you. I love the criticism
Oh, okay.
because it causes me to grow faster than anything else." So you've got to see it as positive and use it because there's this energy coming your way. So how are you going to use this energy? Are you going to lower yourself to be like them?
No, I got you.
Or are you just going to rise above the occasion?
Well, thank you for coming to see us this morning.
Thank you. It
Thank
was
you.
lovely to be here.
Rich Simmonds is a global specialist in global communications, strategic social interventions, and catalyzing, Leanne, and nurturing meaningful and sustained social change.
Balanced people.
Yeah, it's more than you're doing and I'm doing. No, we're not doing this. Not enough. All right, thank you, Rich. Very
Thanks
nice
very
to
much.
meet you, man. Have an awesome day, and thanks for hanging out with us this morning.